All right, today we're going to dive into a really powerful idea for character change that comes from the book of Galatians in the Bible. And honestly, it's a concept that totally flips the script on what most of us think it means to be a good person, no matter what you believe.
So let's just jump right in. Have you ever felt that deep exhaustion? You know, the feeling that being a good person is just this long, demanding checklist of things you're supposed to do? And let's be real, mostly things you're supposed to avoid doing. It can feel like a constant, draining, uphill battle.
And that feeling, that's what we're calling the goodness checklist. It's this superhuman tendency to look at morality as just a big series of boxes we have to tick off, to prove to ourselves and maybe everyone else that we're getting it right.
Yeah, this whole approach of just keeping the rules and constantly monitoring yourself, it almost always leads to this cycle of striving and, frankly, feeling like you're failing. The book of Galatians actually has a name for this whole effort, the works of the flesh. It's basically trying to manufacture goodness through sheer grit and willpower.
But here's where things get really interesting. The source text we're looking at offers a totally different way of thinking about this. It's a surprising twist that challenges all those expectations.
So the passage in Galatians gives us this list of 9 incredible qualities. Now, when you look at this list, what's your first instinct? It's to see 9 separate goals, right? 9 more things to add to that spiritual checklist. Okay, Monday, I'll work on patience. Tuesday is going to be all about self-control.
We see 9 separate things, 9 mountains to climb. But this is the exact moment where the text just pulls the rug out from under us.
Because those 9 things, they're presented as one single thing. Not 9 different fruits you have to collect, but one singular fruit.
And this all comes down to a super subtle but absolutely crucial detail. The source points out that the original Greek text uses the singular word for fruit, karpos. This isn't just some minor grammar thing. It completely changes the entire meaning. So this is the main idea. Love, joy, peace. They aren't separate achievements you have to grind for. They are all just different facets of one unified character that grows naturally when a life is connected to the Spirit. Kind of like an orange, right? It has a peel, it has pulp, it has juice, but it's all just one orange.
And this huge distinction between one fruit and many fruits, well, it introduces this central metaphor. It contrasts 2 completely different ways of thinking about how we change and develop our character.
So on one side, you've got growth. It's natural, it's organic, it's the result of just abiding or staying connected to a life source. But on the other side, you've got striving, and that's all about force, it's manufactured, it's sheer effort. And that's the core contrast right there, the fruit of the Spirit versus the works of the flesh.
This just illustrates the point so perfectly, doesn't it? I mean, have you ever seen a tree gritting its branches, just trying so hard to pop out an apple? Of course not. The apple is the natural, inevitable result of that tree being healthy and connected to the soil and the sun. And the text is saying the exact same principle applies here.
Okay, so this leads to an even bigger question. What are the underlying operating systems, if you will, that produce these 2 totally different results? The source describes them as 2 opposing forces, law versus grace.
So let's really dig into what it means to be under one of these systems, because the language here is super specific and really, really intentional.
The Greek word used here is eupo, and it doesn't just mean you're, physically beneath something. It means to be totally under its power, under its authority, under its complete control. So the idea is you're either under the control of one system or the other.
And the contrast between these 2 systems is, well, it's stark. The system of law, it prohibits, it condemns, it screams, do this, and it demands an obedience that it never gives you the power to actually perform. But the system of grace, it invites, it redeems, and it says, it is done. It actually gives you the power to obey. The difference is just profound.
And here's the kicker. You can't have a foot in both worlds. The text argues that a person is either operating under the total control of law, which only leads to striving and works, or under the total control of grace, which is the only environment where this fruit can actually grow.
So, What happens when a life actually starts to produce this fruit? This is where we see the ultimate point of this whole idea really come into focus. It's the big payoff.
The passage ends with this fascinating, almost kind of throwaway line, "Against such things there is no law." What on earth does that mean? At first glance, it sounds like it's saying laws and rules are just irrelevant.
This quote from S. Lewis Johnson really hits the nail on the head. This isn't about tossing out morality or living by some lower standard. No, it's about operating on a much, much higher standard of life. It's the difference between trying to follow a written code and being completely transformed from the inside out.
And here's the bottom line. A life that is genuinely characterized by love, joy, peace, and patience, well, it doesn't need a law telling it not to murder or not to steal. Why? Because that person's character naturally fulfills the deepest purpose behind any good moral law. The rules themselves become secondary because your character has gone beyond the need for them.
And so that kind of leaves us with this one last, pretty provocative thought to chew on. What if the whole point of this journey isn't just about getting better at following the rules? What if it's about a much deeper transformation? About becoming the kind of person for whom the rules are simply a description of who you already are? It's something to think about.